Hi friends. If you click to check out my thoughts on the Bristles beauty brushes, then please keep on watching. Hi, I'm Alicia. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you are returning, well, thank you for visiting me again. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I'm a fitness professional who loves things all movement and beauty. If you want to head over and check to see what I do in between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram. A huge thank you to Bristles Beauty for sending me these brushes. They had in fact sent me an email about their brushes, and they also sent me a package outlining the premise behind the brand, why they made these brushes, and I'm very happy to report that they are Japanese made. I do appreciate Bristles Beauty for sending the brushes first and not putting pressure on whoever creator they sent these to in using their code right away, in reviewing them right away. They were like, hey, if you like them, you can use the affiliate code that we have set up for you on your behalf. If not, that is totally fine. And I'm like, I appreciate that because it gives me the time to try it out and see, hey, would I recommend this to my viewers? Now, you know, I love my Fude brushes, and I'll be very clear, I am not a brush expert. I consider myself more a brush enthusiast that gets really nerdy about Fude in terms of the different fiber and their function. You know my last video about the Chikuhodo powder brushes, and I have several other videos on my channel describing the different brushes, what they're used for, the shape, this and that. I do have some product knowledge from Bristles Beauty, and it is run by mother-daughter duo Bri Nie. Hi Bri Nie. Together we're committed to bringing beauty lovers brushes that will last a lifetime, and we want luxury brushes to be attainable for everyone. Our brushes are made in Japan using a decades-old artisanal process crafted entirely by hand. Each brush takes 80 steps to create, and we know this, including each bristle being combed, vetted, and carefully chosen for each brush. Usually, makeup brushes are shaped by cutting off the tips of the bristles to form the shape of the brush. You see? But the very tips of natural brushes are the softest part, that they're best for blending. Our brushes are formed using custom molds and are never trimmed, resulting in the silkiest brushes and bristles that achieve the most effortless blend you'll ever experience. Although some other luxury brushes use the same production process, the difference between them and Bristles Beauty is the markup cost. While most luxury brushes are marked up as much as 3,000%, Bristles Beauty keeps the cost of our luxury brushes much more affordable. Now, I don't know if they're talking about like a Tom Ford brush that I do feel is very much high marked up, but a brush made in Japan, they are more expensive, I think, simply because they have more bristles in the actual brush. The actual grade of the bristle squirrel is a lot more expensive than goat hair, and as well as the handle and what material was used to create those. It says here, if you're interested in becoming a Bristles Beauty affiliate, we'd love to have you. Well, thank you so much. They gave me the code KINKYSWEAT. 15% off, and I do earn a commission, friends. So if you feel not comfortable using my code, totally fine, but I wanted to disclose that information so you could just buy them and not use my code. You know what I'm saying? The beauty industry can be very exclusionary in more ways than one. Many products that are considered the best of the best also have a hefty price tag, unattainable for most people. But why is great luxury synonymous with costliness? I believe every makeup wearer deserves to luxuriate themselves and know they're invested in their routines for a lifetime. I do agree that there should be different tiers of Japanese made brushes, and there are. Not all brushes are going to be a Z1 from Chikuhodo, nor do you have to buy a brush like this. But I do feel even the cheaper brushes that are still made in Japan are light years better than the ones that are machine made. Hands down. Even the lower tier Chikuhodo brushes are very, very good, and they don't cost as much as the Z series, the FO series. I consider Refer to be fairly inexpensive. The bronzer brush is going to be in the hundreds because that brush is packed full of bristles. It's a very plush brush. And when I saw the Bristles Beauty brushes, they have two face brushes in their collection, and we'll go through them one by one. I immediately noticed that this is not as packed bristle wise as like a Z1 or FO, or even some of the, like a GSN brush from Chikuhodo. But I will say though, they're very soft, and I think this is a great gateway, if you will, into Fude. If you're not really familiar with Japanese made brushes, if you feel like you understand, like you get it, Japanese made brushes change the game, but your wallet is like, excuse me, these will allow you to feel the craftsmanship of a Japanese made brush, and maybe you prefer a smaller head for your blush or highlight. I took several b-roll of me using these brushes, and I will also demo at the same time, so we got a lot to show. Okay, in addition to the face brushes, we also have some eye brushes that I actually think very helpful in creating a complete eye look. And here's the other eye brush that is your quintessential blending brush, so we'll definitely use that as well. I'll make as many comparisons as I can given the brushes that I have. I thought we go through each of the shapes. We'll talk about each of the shapes, what they are designed to do. I will then run the b-roll as well as do a demo on screen camera. And again, just go through some comparisons I think about when I use the Bristle Beauty brushes. I think the point I wanted to make was I am very much for individuals experiencing Fude and not feeling left out because of the cost, right? Again, there are different tiers of Fude. Not all brushes cost $200 and up, right? There are several brushes that I feel are still very well made. I think it allows for one to experience Fude craftsmanship and just the artistry behind even the most basic of brushes. And when I mean basic, I mean in terms of design, in terms of roll. So don't feel like you have to spend upwards $500 on a powder brush. Yes, some of us are very crazy collectors and we love the premium top tier line brushes, but there's so many other brush brands that will offer a similar experience, and I think again much better in terms of how they're made in Japan versus elsewhere, especially if they are handmade. So I have the Bristles Beauty lineup here. We'll go through the number of the brush, the shape, the use, and the price. First up, we have the E01DL, that stands for dome and long. Ultra soft blending, and this retails for 19 USD or 24 Canadian. The E02RL stands for round long, for effortlessly placing and diffusing, $18 USD, 23 Canadian. E03DM stands for dome medium, perfect crease blending, and that is 17 USD or 22 Canadian. EO4 RS round short, easily for smudging, 16 USD, 21 Canadian. EO5 PS pointed short, pencil for precision blending, 15 USD or 19 Canadian. P06 RF round flat, for placing, padding, and packing, 16 USD or 21 Canadian. The P07P pointed is for precise lining and strokes, 14 USD or 18 Canadian. F08AM angled medium highlighting and contouring, 28 USD, 36 Canadian. F09RM round medium for placing, blending on cheeks, 28 USD, 36 Canadian. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, oh my gosh, these face brushes are $28. I think that is a very good price point for Fude. But if you're wondering why should I spend on, let's say, a Hakuhodo brush that's around the same shape and this one is like $75. Well, this one's Blue Squirrel, so Blue Squirrel typically will cost more than goat. Blue Squirrel costs more than the goat hair. There are more bristles in this brush than there is in the Bristles Beauty. It's a lot softer, and that definitely will determine the price. So don't feel like you got ripped off if you spent significantly more. For instance, if you spend significantly more on this brush, this is the F01, the Fox Hair Powder Brush. If I were to put this next to Bristles brush, not only is the brush head size smaller, but look how many more bristles you have in the Chikuhodo brush versus the Bristle brush. So again, that's where you see the price difference. And although I agree with them in saying that you don't have to spend money on a brush like this, you're gonna pay less for less bristles in a smaller brush head. That's all I'm saying. I would love to see a bigger powder brush from them. I'm sure it's in the works, but no, if they do make a bigger powder brush with more bristles, that will definitely cost more than their smaller face ones. I always love to give brushes a chance because I love brushes. So although I wouldn't reach for these to buff out my powder or apply loose powder, I do really like them for liquid cream products. As you know, or maybe you don't, undyed goat hair is suitable to use for cream liquid products as well as powder products. So because of that, I find the majority of their brushes very versatile to use. I jumped from liquid to powder in my B-rolls, so you'll see me do that now. And with that said, why don't we come in a little closer? That's enough. I believe I applied the Suku Extra Rich Glow Foundation with the F09RM, that is the round medium. Because it says placing and blending on the cheeks, I thought this was really great to apply foundation with because it doesn't have a lot of bristle to it, and it's like a fluffy paddle brush to me. I thought it great, why not, to apply my complexion products with. The Nordstrom sale's going on, so I figured let me go back to some of my favorites. Charlotte Tilbury's Flawless Filter Hollywood Flawless Filter. Good job. I actually really appreciate applying products such as this with a type of brush, natural hair. Now, for instance, BK Beauty, which I consider a favorite as well, I've been using the 108 to stipple on my foundation as well as any cream highlighters. Synthetic fibers are going to lay down more product because since it's not a natural fiber, it does not have cuticles on there. It's not going to absorb as much product as opposed to a natural fiber, which might be ideal for those who don't like a lot of product on their skin. Maybe they want it to be a little more airbrushed and finished. So if you're looking to still use a natural hair brush with your complexion products, I think it very, very helpful to use a brush such as this. It is soft for sure, so don't feel because they're cheaper that the brush is not going to be soft. Typically, goat hair is considered to be soft, especially if the fiber is left intact. It's not as soft as squirrel hair, but you will get more product pickup in regards to powder with the goat hair brush versus a squirrel hair brush. A lot of people like to use squirrel hair because if they feel that their bronzer or blush looks too muddy, that they just can't get the right placement and application, they tend to use squirrel hair brushes. I just brushed on number 5. Yes. I like to dab a little number 3 on the very tops of my cheekbones and also the high points of my face. I don't know what happened there. That was a very interesting application. So taking the F09 and tapping that, and I think again, I really appreciate the paddle shape of the brush. I feel it's very intuitive to use in terms of highlighting, most definitely. And as you will see now, foundation. Going in with an old fave, Shiseido Synchro Skin. This is in shade 360 Citrine. When I first used this foundation, I was like, oh my gosh. I was so floored by the shade match. Although I think this is still a good shade match for me. It might give me a little warmth, just a little bit. Now, would I use a brush like this for powder application? Probably not. I tend to gravitate towards a big fluffy brush for my loose powder application. You know, it's all good. That's just something that I prefer to use, especially squirrel hair, because it's not going to lay down so much powder, just the right amount. So I just like slapping it on, you know what I'm saying? So I really appreciate, again, how soft the brush is, because sometimes even a natural hair brush, if it's using a lower grade fiber, is gonna feel rough, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes even with xoxo goat fibers, if it's shaped in a kabuki design, doing this can feel a little stabby. I rather do this, but the brush is too thick and it's not ideal for that application technique. But if it's smaller and thinner like this, I think very much ideal for foundation. And again, because it is natural hair, it's going to soak up some of the product, which I don't mind. So I feel it just leaves behind a more natural finish. especially if you're not about that heavy foundation life, fam. You want that light application of color, and a natural hair brush is going to allow for that. You know what I'm saying? Now I have a little bit of pigmentation here, as you see. I'll take a little more of the foundation and just press it, even like this. Instead of pulling down, I can definitely tap. So this brush feels really nice with tapping. If you're wondering, you're like, Alicia, well then how in the heck are you gonna go from liquid to powder? Well, you have to make sure, friends, you have a towel nearby, and I also show this in my demo, that between mediums, you just carefully wipe your brush and you're all ready to go and switch to either another liquid product or powder product. You know what I'm saying? I forgot what concealer I applied in the demo. I think today though, I'll go in with the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk concealer. This is 5.5. I also have 5.7, I believe. I like 5.5. It might be a little light. I actually think it's the right amount. I'm putting a little more than usual because I want to kind of brighten up what's going on. The Shiseido gave me a little bit of warmth, you know what I'm saying? Same brush, whip that on, and even under the eyes, I think this very nice for under the eyes. Again, because of the smaller shape, initially might be seen as a disadvantage, sure, if you prefer a bigger brush design for powder. But for this, I think it's quite nice. Again, very nice and effortless in application. Here's the thing, fam. If you're like, okay, well, what about this powder? If I were to dip into Mama's Press Skin, wait a minute, under eye blurring powder, I wipe the brush off and I just press it right under there. Now, is this brush softer? Most definitely. I prefer a tapered shaped brush for the under eyes, but if I was in a jam, like a jam, this works fine, right? Is it my preferred shape? No, not for under eyes, but it works. You know what I'm saying? I just get it right there and tappity tap tap. I use the flat side to get the bigger portions near around my nose and also the side of my nose, center of the forehead, and I'll tap on the brow. In the demo, I use the Salt NYC Radiant Cream. There's a specific name for this palette, but I believe it's like the Radiant Tint Lip Cream, the contour, and the highlighter. So I'll run that B-roll through, and I wanted to show how I really like the F08, the angled brush, for applying the cream contour shade as well as the cream blush shade. So because of the smaller brush head, again, I wouldn't necessarily, well, that's not true. I used it for blush, but some of my other blush favorites are the Wayne Goss Artist Large brush. Another fave is the Hakuhodo Holiday 2019 brush. That's great for blush. I have a lot of blush favorites, but in terms of using cream products, I really liked the F08. So I wanted to go in now with my Shiseido stick. This is Tan F01, and usually with the Synchro Skin stick, I'll put some on the back of my hand. Let's take the F08 and I just press that in to the hollows of my cheeks. And I think it's quite nice to use for this purpose, right? Again, if you see the smaller brush head and you get discouraged, you're like, what am I going to use that for? For more precise applications of color, you could even tap some highlighter on with the side of the brush. I particularly appreciate smaller head brushes like this for my cream bronzer or cream contour, simply because it just fits so nicely here, right? And because it's not so densely packed, it's going to move really well across the skin. See that? It's not going to be a kabuki type of brush feel. And I think that ideal for more of an airbrush finish when you're applying creams on the skin. And I'm just taking the sides right here, apply a little bit of the 40110 in the sides of my nose. And right here too, yes. Still very soft, but for these tasks, and I use my higher grade fiber powder brushes for powder application, and I'll use, I don't want to say cheaper, but the less expensive brushes for the cream task because I don't feel bad about cleaning these more often than I do my squirrel hair brushes. I want to go in more with the Char. Got to. Going back with the F09. This is great for highlighter. I love it. I mean, the Charlotte Tilbury is flawless in application as well, but when it comes to, you know, this right here with this brush, tappity tap tap, I don't feel the need to apply powder, but I want to go in with the Giorgio Armani Neo Nude Fusion Powder. Thank you, Rona from Armani Beauty, for sending this to me in PR. This is the shade here, and I just wanted to show you, although this is not like a powder, let's go in with the F08, the small angled head. I'm going to quickly do that. In the demo, I think I applied either it was the Charlotte Tilbury or the Mented, but I think I used one or the other. I think I used the F09 brush. It's not my favorite to apply bronzer simply because I prefer a bigger powder brush for my powder bronzer application. But since this is in hybrid formula, I thought let's take, this is in 8, take some of that and just press it on top of the Shiseido. And again, I just really love the size of the brush head. I think an ideal shape for this application. And I really love how my makeup is laying down. You know what I'm saying? So I keep going between synthetic and goat hair, or undyed goat hair rather, when it comes to my complexion steps. I like the natural hair too, fam, because I feel it leaves me so airbrushed because again, it takes away some of the product. And I like that. I like that. Again, using the example, if you were on a desert island and you only had one brush, if I really just had this one brush, ideally I would go in again with my Z1 or my Z9 for the loose powder application. This could work. Is it ideal? No, because I like a bigger brush. However, this is Pat's loose powder. Let's see here. I'm going to take a little bit and just kind of do this. So the reason why I'm not crazy about it is because since the bristles are shorter on this brush, it's not going to flow over my skin as well as something like this. And I'm not saying the only powder brush you need or have to have is a Z line series one. There are plenty of more inexpensive powder brushes that have a longer bristle or more densely packed that has this type of experience in terms of loose powder application. I just want to be very clear with that because I don't want you feeling again, oh, there she goes showing that whatever $100 brush again. I'm just showing what I prefer, okay fam? I can make this work, but I feel it's going to move around my cream products too much, whereas a longer fiber brush like that is not. So I'm saying, so you might have to tap instead of buff if you have to use this brush for powder. Maybe this brush, probably I would use this brush, the angled one, for loose powder because it has a little more movement, just a little more. Ooh, we gotta put on some blush, fam. What do we do with blush? Do I even have a blush to use? You know what, let me hop into my Natasha Denona, the bronze cheek and face glow palette that like no one liked. I'm gonna go in with this brush with the cream, although this, people were having trouble because this is a drier texture. I rather go in with my finger, but let's see what this lays down. This is a very light formula. I think it puts on enough. I like the pickup with the goat hair brush with the bounce cream formula. If I wanted to go in with the flatter powder brush and the bounce cream glow, I'll just place it there closer on the apples of my cheeks, so it has like that pink shift. Let me go in with the nude glow, and again I'm wiping off this brush, tapping into the Super Glow Nude, and tap that on the Charlotte Tilbury. Yes, I think that's a very nice combination indeed. Anytime you want to pick up product, you gotta wiggle this way. If you go in this way, you probably won't pick up as much. They're gonna go pop, 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 and that will allow the bristles to actually pick up the product. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you'll be there all day. And why not? We gotta go in with the Super Glow Bronze. We got to. Let me go in now with the F08 and just tap. That's so pretty. I love this palette. I know some people didn't like it. I know some people didn't like it, but I like it. I think it's pretty. It gives me a nice, like, that, I mean, that was a lot of browns. Whoops. Probably overdid it on that side, but it's fine. It's fine. All right, these eyes. Okay, let me quickly prep the lids. Have to go in with my Hourglass, this veil primer. Now into the eye brushes, the EO2, the RL, that stands for round long. I will use this brush for the, oh, well, now when it's dirty, Alicia, to apply the primer, especially if you don't want like a very intense cut under the brow. And also make sure your brush is clean. I mean, I did wipe it, but the wetness from the primer is releasing the pigments from the bristles, which is causing whatever's on here to go on my eye. So so I'm just gonna use my finger. I don't want to sabotage myself. But if that brush was clean, you could very much use that to apply your eye primer. Let's use some tiny marbles, shall we? Ooh, what I want to do. Okay, so I'm sure all of you were wondering about the EO1. The EO1 is like your Wayne Gloss 16, Wayne Gloss number 3, if from his Anniversary 2 collection. Excuse me, I don't even have my xoxo in my eyeshadow brush cup. Excuse me. I think it's a J5522, which is the same shape brush. Also the refer number 16 is the same, it's the same number as the Wayne Goss. Funny, that's so funny. In terms of the Wayne Goss, for instance, the Wayne Goss doesn't have as much, or maybe it does. I don't think it does, because the Bristle Beauty has a little more bristle in here, whereas the Wayne doesn't. So it's a little more airbrush and feel and finish. So this will pick up a lot more than Wayne's brush, and it is slightly bigger in the brush head design. So if you wanted a slightly stiffer tapered brush, then I think you would like the Bristle Beauty EO number 1. And the EO2 is much like, let's see here, I would think it reminds me of my Chico Hodo Beautylish Holiday, I think it's 2018 edition, Sonergy's Worker 3. I know these brushes are so dirty, don't be mad at me. The J55, ooh, this number rubbed off. The J552, something from xoxo. The xoxo has more of a tapered tip to it. I don't know if you can see, this is the xoxo, this is the Bristle Beauty. The Bristle Beauty is a little more round. And my Takumi, where's my Takumi? Oh, this brush is so great. It's smaller than the bristles and it's a tot flat. Actually, the T7 is like the F09, but a smaller version. That is so funny. So those are a couple. I mean, I'm sure I have a lot more, but from what the top of my head, that's, you know, the standouts. I'm gonna go Tree Hopper because I haven't used this shade yet with the EO1. So as in the description, you will expect a smoother blend and a smoother feel from the brush, which is something that people are blown away by when you use like another brush that's machine made and the bristles are cut, and use one that the bristles are left intact. It is a smoother blend and it doesn't move the skin around as much. But because this has a little more, it's slightly stiffer and it's not as, for instance, the Chico Hodo Z11, this has a lot more movement. See that? This is a little stiffer. So I think that is the standout difference for me in terms of comparing this brush to several others in my collection that look like it. Same brush with walking stick. This is more like a dirty olive. I like, depending on the formula, I appreciate a stiffer brush. If, for instance, I'm dealing with like a melt matte or something, where I think a slightly more packed brush is going to move around those pigments better, but it still works for a formula like Sydney Grace, because Sydney Grace mattes, I feel, are really neutral in terms of whatever brush you use them with. They're great whether it's with the squirrel hair, with the goat hair brush, even with the synthetic brush. All right, we got a little bit of warm, we got a little bit of cool. EO2 of Love Bug, that is like the mauve-y type of a shade. I'm gonna place it slightly under Tree Hopper. What's a tree stopper, Alicia? One of my other observations is that this collection does not have a shader brush. I would use this as a shader brush, but if you wanted more color impact intensity on the application, you would then use something flatter. Like this, for instance. This is an ESUM W23. This definitely packs on more color than this simply because it's not as fluffy. But again, that just comes in with the roll. And another brush I would use for packing, let's see here. Oh, just to quickly compare, the Refer number 1 kind of reminds me of the FO, or excuse me, we're not doing face anymore, Alicia. EO2 or the 02 from Refer. This is a lot flatter. This is a truer shader brush, in my opinion. Still, but depending on the formula, you could probably get away with this brush in packing down a shimmer or metallic shade. Now, I could go in with the EO2 or I could go in with the EO3. The EO3 reminds me of a Refer number 13. I just pulled out a, is this a number? This is a Refer brush too, but the Refer brush, I think this is a number 12. They have a brush that's smaller in size. The Sonia G Mini Booster kind of reminds me of the EO3, except the Mini Booster is squirrel hair and it's softer because it is, well, actually that's undyed, sorry. It's dyed goat hair, which makes it softer. So really great for that lower lash line blend. This is pretty soft too. So I'm going to go in with Spider and use the smaller brush to tap on that shade. Now this is ideal for smaller eyes, especially if you have hooded ones that you need a smaller brush to get right in there in the crease. Although I find that this brush doesn't have the same mobility as, let's say, my Refer number 12. Again, there's a smaller brush here, but because the bristles are longer, it's not going to move the skin. This, I feel, moves the skin a little bit because I think it's a little too tightly packed, but I wouldn't use it for that application. I would bring it right here. So instead of using that for my crease, I will use it for my lower lash line, and that's great. So it's going to keep it tighter, closer to the lash line, and I will use another brush then to kind of feather out that application I have on my crease. Or I'll go back to the EO2, make sure I wipe off from what I did on this eye, and then use that to blend out Spider. Definitely would rely on the EO2 for blending, the smaller brush, the EO3 for more precise application of color, even on the inner corner. Why not? Or if you wanted to blend out a pencil, if you're doing a cut crease, I think that would be a great opportunity for this brush also. Now I want to do, ooh, what do I want to do? I think I want to do Jewel Bee, but I want to place it here, right on the inner part. Actually, I'm going to place it under Spider and use that to kind of blend it out and create like that nice haze of lavender. I really like this brush for the lower lash line for sure. If you really love lower lash line smoke and like to bring it a little lower than what you usually see, I think that's a great opportunity for that brush also. For this, do we want to smoke this out a little bit more? Maybe. How about Bugaboo? A Bugaboo. But I want to tap. And again, if I wanted to blend it in toward my crease, I'll go back with the EO2. I'm going to place it right here. Flutterby, which is this beautiful coral peachy shade. And in the same way we use Jewel Bee on this eye, I'm now using Flutterby under everything and just smoking that out. Okay. I definitely want to go in with Fire Butts. So this brush I think is interesting. The EO4, definitely great for smudging, for sure. I mean, automatically when you see the shape, I think this. But I would like to use it to kind of sketch where I will put Fire Butts. Fire Butts is this really beautiful, like, limey type of metallic shade. Because since we don't have a traditional shader brush, I can use this to just place where I want that metallic shade. Yeah, so I could use that precise point to kind of carve out where I want that metallic to go. And then go in with the EO2, although fluffy, I'll get more product on there and just place it more confidently since we set up that line with that precise brush. See? So now we got it on there real nice. Ooh, look at that color. That's pretty. Going in, ooh, you know what? I gotta do it. Scarab is so beautiful. This is already an existing shade in Sydney Grace. It's called Red Chameleon. Tapping on the CS. The Spider Matte, I think, just sets up a little more depth under Scarab, but Scarab moving into Firebutt is such a beautiful transition. I really like that combination a lot. Now for this, what do I want to do? I'm gonna go BB because I haven't used BB yet on the majority of my lid. You know, pencil brush is coming in a moment. Coming in a moment. And use BB, the gold metallic shade, and just tap that again using the edge of the brush to keep it under the crease. Want to go in with Metal Hawk because I feel the gold shift in Metal Hawk will just be super pretty with BB. Yes, I was right. I'm just overlapping them so they could, ooh, that's pretty. I love. Tapping a little more Bugaboo on the outer corner. Lower inner third. Going in with Marvel with this pencil brush. The pencil brush is a little stiffer than, let's say, a reference number 3, where because the point is a lot more flexible, I think is better suited for those with very sensitive inner corners or lower lash line. This is pretty soft, but I feel I don't get that same glide effect from some of my other pencil brushes. But it's still soft, so if you do this, it's not gonna feel scratchy or pinchy. On this side, I'm gonna go in with Firebutts for the inner corner. Yes. Walking stick with the EO3. Yes. This is good because I'm not going across my crease with it. I'm just using it to slightly buff here on the inner part of my eye. And then I'm gonna go in Love Bug, same brush. I made sure I wiped it off and refine the crease here on this eye. Web, which is the beautiful satin shade in here. And again, using this brush because I think it's, you know, ideal for inner corner. Wrong eye anatomy. Brow bone highlight placement. I could put on lashes, but I'm just gonna put on some mascara. Here's a wide shot of the finished look as well as close-up shots of my complexion. I am really happy with how my foundation and all cheek products turned out using the Bristles Beauty brushes. Am I replacing some of my brushes with these? Not necessarily. I think they are a great addition to my collection, but I don't want to make this about me. I want to make this about the individual who is on a budget and who doesn't want to spend as much money as I do on Fude brushes, but maybe they want to experience what a brush is like when it is handmade in Japan and the differences that they will feel. And I think you definitely will. These very much are consistent with all of my Fude brushes that I have in terms of being from Refer, Chikuhodo, Hakuhodo. I think they are light years better than a lot of natural hair brushes that I have from other companies that are machine made. And again, if you were ever wondering what that experience is like, what that application is like, I think this is a great opportunity for you to experience the difference between a machine-made brush and a handmade brush, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I also wanted to mention, I forgot to show the P06. I love this little brush. It actually reminds me of my Hakuhodo brush. Very much similar. I think my Hakuhodo brush has a little more, well, they're actually very similar in shape. This is one of my most favorite types of brushes to use to smudge liner or even to place some color on the inner corner or keep shadow tight under the lash line here, or just place very small amount of highlight under the brow bone arch. My apologies, it slipped under my butt. This is what happens when you don't put our brushes in a cup and you just put them on your bed and the bed just, everything just slides on down. To continue saying, I hope Bristles Beauty expands their brush collection. Perhaps they have a bronzer or powder brush in the works. Again, are these my go-to shapes for loose powder or for bronzing? Not necessarily, but I definitely was able to find a place for them in my routine, and I love the result, especially since I have been using a lot more cream products. And if I wanted to jump from my synthetic BK Beauty brushes and I wanted to use a natural hairbrush for cream products, I have that option now. If you don't even come close to powder and you exclusively use cream and liquid products for your complexion, I think these are definitely worth considering, especially the F09, as you saw, to apply not only my foundation but my concealer. I did use the F08 for the loose powder application, and again, it's not my favorite. I could make it happen. Find it ideal for cream bronzer contour, cream blush, even cream highlight to pounce it on the cheekbones. There's so many different uses for this brush. And if you happen to be using a bronzer product that's very silky smooth, I would say like the Charlotte Tilbury or even the Mented Cosmetics, you could probably just pounce the powder lightly on the hollows of your cheekbones and you will still have that smooth effect. I definitely love to apply bronzer and loose powder with a just plushier type of a design brush. That is just my preference. And I have so many, right? The Kazan brush, any of the Maquillé brushes are just ideal for those tasks. I did find a place for these. And I think, again, if you wanted to just tip your toes in some Fude, I understand they're not the most luxurious feeling. They don't have the heaviest handle. I think maybe because of that reason, if you have been traveling because of work or what have you, maybe this will be your travel set. The handles are tapered. They're lighter weight, they're just easier to store. That's something to consider. So those are my overall thoughts, and I'm very happy with them overall. I'm really happy to see a brand break into the industry that's going to introduce Japanese made brushes to a part of the consumer space where, again, they want to know about it, but they don't want to take that dive into it, especially if they only know Fude by their high prices or by Chikuhodo Z series. If that's the only thing they align Japanese made with, then perhaps Bristles Beauty will then lead them into, oh, okay, there's this brand and that type of brush. It could kind of expand their product knowledge and just make them a little more curious about it. And I think that's a great initiative. So thank you to Bristles Beauty for sending these to me and just allowing me an opportunity to share the product with you. And again, if you want to use my code, if you want to buy these brushes, if you have any more questions about them, I'll be more than happy to answer down below. And until then, friends, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I'll see you on here again with another tutorial, brush extravaganza video, monthly favorite, or nightly life chit chat. Take care, and I will see you again soon.